I'm Shannon, and I'm a conflict resolution specialist. I teach conflict resolution and communication skills for everyday people like you and me who just want to create a little more peace and harmony in their lives. And just a quick note, everything I share here is for educational purposes only. It's not individualized advice, but I hope it gives you tools you can use in your own life. Today, I want to talk about something I've been noticing everywhere lately, in my mediation work, in my personal life, and honestly, just in the world in general. It's something that still kind of blows my mind, even after years of doing this work. And that's how certain we can become that we know someone else's intentions, and how often we're convinced that those intentions are not good. In my work as a mediator, I have a really unique vantage point. I get to hear both sides of a conflict, often separately, and often in a lot of detail. What's striking to me is that two people can look at the exact same situation and walk away with completely different realities about what's happening and why. Furthermore, each person is usually absolutely convinced that they understand the other person's motives perfectly. And I will tell you that very often they're wrong, or at least partially wrong. So I've been a mediator for quite some time now, and I've done hundreds of mediations at this point. In my experience, most people are not coming to the table trying to punish the other person. They're not trying to be cruel or to cause further conflict. It does happen sometimes, of course, but far, far less often than people assume. Most of the time, people are just trying to protect themselves, feel safe, feel respected, and get their needs met. But by the time they get into conflict, they've often created a story where the other person is selfish, malicious, careless, or being intentionally harmful. I see this in my own life too. I've certainly had moments where a loved one has accused me of having thoughts or intentions that I genuinely did not have. And that's because a narrative was created without me. And if I'm being honest, I know I've done the same thing to people that I care about. We all do this. So to give you a really simple example of how this may play out in real life, think about road rage. If someone cuts us off in traffic, a lot of us take that very personally. We might think, that person is aggressive, they're reckless, they don't care about anyone but themselves. But in reality, they may not have seen us, they might have a different tolerance for distance, they may have been distracted, or they might be dealing with something stressful or even an emergency. We don't actually know. But our brain fills in the blanks, and it usually fills them in a way that makes the other person the problem. There's actually a term for this in psychology, and it's called the fundamental attribution error. And all it really means is this. We tend to explain other people's behavior by their character or intent, while explaining our own behavior by circumstances. So in essence, when I mess up, it's because I was tired, I was overwhelmed, I didn't have all the information. But when you mess up, that's just who you are. Again, this is human, it's not a moral failure, it's a human brain thing. Another concept that shows up a lot in conflict is something called naïve realism. And that's the belief that I see the situation clearly and objectively. And if you see it differently, you must be biased, irrational, or misinformed. That's part of why conflict escalates so quickly. Because once we believe our version is reality, any disagreement feels like a threat, not just to our opinion, but to our sense of being right, safe, or understood. Now, what's really happening underneath all of this is needs. When our needs feel threatened, whether that's safety, autonomy, respect, stability, or connection, our brains go into protection mode. And one way we protect ourselves is by creating stories. Stories that explain why the other person is wrong, stories that justify our anger or withdrawal, or stories that make the conflict make sense. The problem is, once we believe the story, we stop checking it. In mediation, I often see it play out like this. One person is convinced the other is being controlling. The other is convinced the first person is being irresponsible. But when you slow it down, what you usually find underneath that is one person needs predictability and security, the other needs flexibility and autonomy. Neither need is bad. Neither person is the villain. But the story they've told about each other has turned differences into a moral judgment. So I want to offer a simple tool here, not to fix everything, but to slow it down. It's called check the story. So step 1, name the story you're telling. Ask yourself, what am I assuming about this person's intent? Not what they did, but why you think they did it. Step 2, separate facts from interpretation. So facts are things like what was said, what was done, and what was observable. Interpretations are things like they don't care, they're trying to control me, they did this on purpose. So things that involve an opinion or a judgment of some sort. Just noticing the difference between a fact and an interpretation can be huge. The final step is to generate alternative explanations. So ask yourself, what are 2 or 3 other reasons this behavior might make sense, even if I don't like it? This isn't about excusing harm, and it's not about gaslighting yourself. It's about loosening certainty enough to create space for curiosity, because curiosity de-escalates conflict, and certainty escalates it. When we check the story, something interesting happens. We don't automatically agree with the other person, but we stop turning them into the enemy. And that shift alone can change how a conversation goes. I think this issue of assumed intent and false narratives is at the core of most conflicts, in relationships, at work, in families, and yes, in our broader social and political divisions too. We're creating stories that make enemies of each other, when in reality, most of us want very similar things. We all want love, safety, connection, stability, and autonomy. We may disagree deeply on how to get those things, but that doesn't automatically make the other person malicious. So the next time you feel absolutely certain you know why someone did what they did, I want to gently invite you to pause and ask, what story am I telling right now? What information might I be missing? And what would change if I approach this with curiosity instead of certainty? These questions won't solve every conflict, but they can open a door. And sometimes that's where resolution begins. Thanks for watching. If this was helpful, feel free to like, subscribe, or share it with someone who might need it. And remember, small shifts in how we communicate can create big shifts in our relationships. I'll see you in the next video.